My father lifted his glass. The room was full. Crystal clinked. Someone laughed. He looked directly at me. Then he smiled. "Let's be honest," he said casually. "Only her money matters." The room laughed. Not loudly. Just enough. My sister laughed too. My fiancé squeezed my hand under the table. A silent warning not to react. The band kept playing. My father took another sip of champagne. And just like that, the moment moved on. But something in the room shifted. Not in the air. In people. Eyes moved away too quickly. A few guests avoided looking at me. My mother stared down at her plate. My sister leaned over and whispered something to her new husband. They both smiled. It was small. Subtle. But it stayed with me. And that's when I realized something was very wrong. My name is Elena. I work in financial compliance for a private investment firm. Most of my days are quiet. Structured. Spreadsheets. Risk reviews. Audits. I'm the person companies hire when they want someone careful. Someone patient. Someone who notices small things. I've always been that way. My father calls it cold. He's said that since I was a kid. My sister, Natalie, is the opposite. Loud. Charming. Magnetic. People orbit her. Our parents adore her. Always have. That part never bothered me much. Families have roles. Mine was the reliable one. Natalie's wedding had taken over the entire summer. A destination venue. Hundreds of guests. Custom flowers flown in from Italy. Every detail extravagant. My father insisted it had to be perfect. But the truth was simple. He couldn't afford it. Not entirely. His construction company had struggled for 2 years. The pandemic nearly finished it. So when Natalie got engaged, the conversations started. Quiet ones at first. Then more direct. Family helps family, my mother said. I didn't argue. Natalie was my sister. So I helped. First with the venue deposit. Then the catering advance. Then the final payment for the reception hall. When everything was added together, it came to just over $100,000. I transferred it through a family trust account my lawyer had set up years ago. Clean. Documented. Professional. No drama. My father never liked that part. He prefers things informal. But I work in compliance. Paper trails matter. Still, the wedding weekend felt normal at first. Busy. Loud. Relatives flying in. Vendors running everywhere. Natalie glowing under layers of makeup and excitement. She hugged me repeatedly. "None of this happens without you," she whispered once while we were alone. I believed her. I really did. But small things started bothering me. Conversations would stop when I entered rooms. My father would quickly change topics. Natalie avoided discussing finances. At first I assumed it was stress. Weddings do that to people. But then came the rehearsal dinner. My father sat at the head of the table, relaxed, charming the guests like he always does. Halfway through the meal he leaned toward one of Natalie's new in-laws. He didn't realize I was behind him. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "Elena's good for it." The man laughed. I stood there for a second. Then I walked away. Later that night I checked the trust account again. Everything was still there. The final transfer scheduled for the morning of the wedding. Standard practice for large events. Funds released after the ceremony. No one else had access except me. Still. Something felt off. Not wrong. Just arranged. Like pieces on a board. The toast at the wedding confirmed it. Only her money matters. The way he said it. Not joking. Not quite serious either. Just comfortable. Like it was the obvious truth. And the room reacted like they'd heard it before. That's what bothered me. Not the insult. The familiarity. So I stopped reacting. And I started watching. The morning after the rehearsal dinner, I woke up early. That's normal for me. Years of early compliance meetings make it hard to sleep late. The resort was quiet. Most of the wedding guests were still asleep after the late night. I made coffee in the small sweet kitchenette and opened my laptop. Out of habit more than suspicion, I checked the trust account again. The final transfer, $100,000, was still scheduled for release at 6 p.m. Exactly 2 hours after the ceremony. That timing had been my father's request. Gives the vendors peace of mind, he'd said. It sounded reasonable. Still, something about the dinner conversation bothered me. Elena's good for it. The way he said it. Like it wasn't really my decision. I opened the payment file. Everything looked normal at first. Vendor details. Escrow instructions. Release conditions. But one thing caught my attention. The beneficiary account. It wasn't the venue. It wasn't the wedding planner. It was a holding company. A small LLC I didn't recognize. I leaned closer to the screen. The name meant nothing to me. That alone wasn't unusual. Large events often route payments through management firms. But compliance work trains you to notice patterns. And this one didn't fit. So I did something simple. I searched the business registry. 30 seconds later the record appeared. Registered 2 months earlier. Single director. My father. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I kept reading. The registered mailing address matched a small office space near his construction company. No employees listed. No public activity. Just a financial shell. The payment instructions were clear. Once the funds were released, they would move from the trust account to that LLC. After that, the trail ended. No requirement to pay vendors. No escrow protections. Just money moving into a private account. I didn't feel angry. Not immediately. Mostly I felt curious. So I kept looking. I opened the wedding contract. Then the vendor invoices. Then the venue agreement. Something became clear very quickly. Most of the major costs had already been paid weeks earlier. By Natalie's new in-laws. Quietly. Without telling me. Which meant something simple. The $100,000 wasn't paying for the wedding. It was going somewhere else. I leaned back and thought about my father's business. The debts. The loans he'd been trying to restructure. Then I searched again. This time for the LLC. A second document appeared. Filed 3 weeks earlier. A loan agreement. My father had pledged the incoming funds as collateral. For a short-term construction loan. If the money arrived, the loan stayed open. If it didn't, the lender could seize several company assets. The numbers were large enough to explain everything. The wedding. The rush. The strange secrecy. He wasn't celebrating Natalie. He was refinancing his company. With my money. I closed the laptop. Still calm. Still quiet. But now I understood the room at the reception. The familiarity. The looks people gave each other. Some of them already knew. That afternoon something else happened. The wedding videographer approached me near the bar. "Hey," he said casually. "You're Elena, right?" I nodded. He pulled out his phone. "Your dad asked me to capture some family moments last night at dinner," he said. He showed me a short clip. My father leaning toward Natalie's father-in-law. The same conversation I'd overheard. But this time the audio was clear. "Don't worry about the expenses," my father said. "Elena wired $100,000 through her trust. After tonight it goes straight into my company." The other man laughed. "That your daughter?" "Technically," my father replied. "Does she know?" "She doesn't need to." The video ended. The videographer shrugged. "Thought you might want a copy." I thanked him. He airdropped the file. I saved it. Then I uploaded it to 3 separate cloud backups. 1 private drive. 1 encrypted archive. 1 folder shared with my lawyer. Not because I was angry. Because evidence should never exist in only one place. The ceremony started an hour later. Natalie looked radiant. My father looked relaxed. Everyone assumed the day was perfect. The trust account timer kept counting down. 6 p.m. 2 hours after the ceremony. $100,000. Scheduled to disappear. I closed my phone and watched the vows. No one noticed anything unusual. And I decided something important. I wouldn't confront anyone. Not yet. Confronting them would have ruined everything. After the ceremony, everyone moved toward the reception hall. Music. Champagne. Photographers directing people into groups. The atmosphere was exactly what weddings are supposed to be. Bright, loud, uncomplicated. No one noticed I stepped outside for a few minutes. The resort had a small garden behind the ballroom. Quiet. Mostly empty. I opened my phone and called my lawyer. Daniel picked up on the second ring. He's the one who created the trust account years ago when I first started earning real money. Careful man. Former prosecutor. The kind of lawyer who dislikes surprises. Everything okay? He asked. Yes, I said calmly. But I need to pause a scheduled transfer. He didn't ask why. He just opened the account on his side. The $100,000 release? Yes. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, done. The timer stopped. The funds stayed exactly where they were. Nothing moved. From the outside, nothing changed. That was important. Because my father believed the transfer would happen automatically. And until he checked the account, he had no reason to think otherwise. I thanked Daniel. Then I told him something else. I'm sending you a video. A few seconds later the file uploaded. Daniel watched it while we stayed on the call. I could hear the silence on the other end. Then he exhaled slowly. Do you want to pursue this? He asked. His voice was neutral. Professional. I thought about it for a moment. No, I said. Not legally. Then what? I just want to protect the money. Another pause. That part is already done, he said. I knew he was right. But protection isn't only about accounts. Sometimes it's about timing. So I told him my plan. Very simple. Very quiet. Daniel listened. When I finished, he said only one thing. That will work. Then he sent me a short document. A cancellation notice. Pre-written. Professional language. It stated that the gift transfer scheduled through the trust had been revoked due to breach of agreement. The document also referenced the recorded statement made by the intended recipient about misrepresenting the purpose of the funds. It was clean. Precise. Not emotional. Exactly the kind of document financial institutions respect. I saved it. Then I walked back into the reception hall. No one noticed I'd been gone. Natalie and her new husband were taking photos. My mother was greeting relatives. My father stood near the bar laughing with several guests. Relaxed. Confident. Safe. The reception continued. Dinner was served. Speeches started. My father's toast had already happened earlier in the day. Now it was time for the final announcements. The wedding planner stepped onto the small stage. She thanked the guests. She thanked the families. Then she mentioned the final vendor confirmations that would take place later that evening. Standard wedding logistics. My father smiled proudly at the table. He believed everything was moving exactly according to plan, which made the next step easy. I waited until the room quieted. Then I stood. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just calmly. I'd like to say something, I said. People turned toward me. My father looked surprised. Natalie looked curious. The microphone was still on the stand near the planner. I walked over and picked it up. My heart wasn't racing. My voice didn't shake. Years of presenting financial reports to hostile boardrooms will do that to a person. I want to congratulate Natalie, I said. The room smiled. She smiled too. I was happy to help make today possible. Polite applause. Then I continued. But unfortunately, I said quietly, the gift I arranged for this wedding can't be completed. The room grew still. My father's smile froze. I didn't look at him yet. The $100,000 transfer scheduled for tonight has been cancelled. Now everyone was looking at our table. Natalie frowned slightly. My father slowly stood. Elena, he said carefully, Maybe we should talk about this privately. I finally looked at him. We can, I said. But the bank already received the documentation. The room was completely silent now. My father understood something was wrong. But he still didn't understand how wrong. Because the loan tied to that money was due for confirmation that evening. Without the transfer, the collateral vanished. Which meant the lender would start asking questions. Serious questions. I placed the microphone back on the stand. Then I added one last sentence. Don't worry, I said calmly. The bank has the video explaining everything. My father didn't move. The planner stared at me. Guests whispered quietly. Natalie looked confused. And somewhere, miles away, a lender's compliance office was probably beginning to review a loan file. I sat back down. Dinner plates remained untouched. My father still hadn't spoken. Because he finally understood what had happened. They thought the day belonged to them. They thought everything was secure. They thought the money was already theirs. They thought it was just another day. It wasn't. For a few seconds after I sat down, nothing happened. The room held its breath. Guests looked between my father and me, unsure whether this was some strange family misunderstanding or something far more serious. My father was the first to move. He stepped away from the table slowly and walked toward me. Not angry. Not yet. Careful. Elena, he said quietly, leaning closer so most people couldn't hear, we don't need to make a scene. I met his eyes. There isn't one, I replied. His jaw tightened. The money was already arranged. No, I said calmly. It was scheduled. That one word mattered. Scheduled transfers can be stopped. Completed transfers cannot. My father understood that difference immediately. He straightened. Across the room, Natalie was watching us with growing confusion. Her husband whispered something to her. My mother looked pale. For the first time that day, my father looked uncertain. Let's go outside, he said. But before either of us moved, another interruption arrived. The wedding planner's phone vibrated loudly on the podium. She stepped away to answer it. The timing wasn't coincidence. Banks move quickly when documentation reaches the right department. Especially when loan collateral suddenly disappears. Her voice lowered as she spoke. Then she glanced toward my father. Mr. Harris, she said. The room turned again. There's a call for you. He walked toward her slowly. Guests began whispering openly now. Natalie stood up. Dad, what's going on? He ignored the question and took the phone. He listened for maybe 15 seconds. Then his posture changed. Not dramatically. Just a small shift in the shoulders. The way someone stands when they realize something important has collapsed. I see, he said quietly into the phone. Another pause. No. I understand. He handed the phone back. The room was silent again. My father returned to the table and sat down heavily. Natalie stared at him. Dad. He didn't answer. Because the call had likely been simple. Without the $100,000 collateral deposit, the lender had suspended the loan extension. Which meant the short-term construction financing he'd been relying on was now unsecured. When lenders lose collateral, they protect themselves. Fast. Accounts freeze. Audits begin. Questions multiply. The process is very procedural. Very quiet. Very real. Natalie looked from him to me. Elena, what is happening? I answered honestly. Nothing that affects your wedding, I said. And that part was true. The venue had already been paid. The vendors were covered. Her new in-laws had made sure of that. My father had simply hoped to turn the celebration into something else. A financial bridge. But bridges collapse when the foundations are false. My mother finally spoke. You cancelled the gift. Yes. Her voice trembled slightly. Why? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply opened my phone. Then I played the video. The audio was clear. My father's voice filled the quiet reception hall. Don't worry about the expenses. Elena wired $100,000 through her trust. After tonight it goes straight into my company. The room heard every word. No interpretation needed. No explanation required. When the video ended, no one spoke. My father didn't deny it. He couldn't. Evidence rarely invites arguments. It simply exists. A few guests quietly returned to their seats. Others looked away. Natalie slowly sat down. Her expression wasn't anger. It was something closer to realization. Not about the money. About the plan. My father stood again, but this time he didn't look at me. He walked toward the exit of the ballroom. No one followed. The band eventually resumed playing. Softly at first. Then louder. Because weddings have a strange way of continuing even when something important breaks underneath them. Natalie approached me later that evening. We stood near the edge of the garden where the lights were dim. Did you know? She asked. No, I said truthfully. Would you have helped if he asked? Yes. That part surprised her. But it was still true. Helping family isn't difficult. Being used without permission is different. She nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she said. I believed her. The night continued quietly after that. Guests danced. The band played. The wedding ended the way most weddings do, gradually. People leaving. Lights dimming. Staff cleaning tables. I walked back to my suite around midnight. My phone buzzed once. A short message from Daniel. Funds secured. Account protected. No exposure. I placed the phone on the nightstand and turned off the light. Outside, the resort had gone silent. The wedding music was gone. The celebration was finished. The money was safe. And the truth had been heard by exactly the people who needed to hear it. No shouting. No revenge speeches. Just evidence. That night, everything was quiet.